Hello everyone, Don here again with the next update on the W.A.R Corsair project. Did manage to get a video in last week. For one, I didn't get a whole lot done. I had other things going on. I had to get my flow vent or my aquablast cabinet back together. I had to scavenge the pump out of that thing and use it in the house on my septic pump. It went down, so I had to repair that a couple weeks back, so I never got it back together. So I finally put it back together, put the pump back in, had to rewire it all up, cleaned the media out, changed out the water, and I'm down to like a ½ inch of media left in the bottom of that. So I need to get another bag of that stuff coming. I mean, it's like $50–60 a bag once it ships. And then the other thing I did, you can see the little clamps I got on it there. I got rid of the old snap clamps that used to be on this, and these are the flip over style, as you see there. I think the humidity in here is playing with the fog in the lens a bit. Just brought the camera out of the house, so it was nice and air conditioned in there. But I did that, got that running. So I spent like a half a day working on this thing, getting it back together, because I need to start cleaning some other parts up with it. Like I said, I need to order some more media for it. So I spent, a better part of a day working on that, cleaning it all out, took the cabinet completely outside. So what I did tinker a little bit with this last week. As you can see, I did manage to pull the tank off and pulled off the cowling, top of the cowling, so I could get in and work on things. I went around and started looking at some of the stuff I needed to finish tinkering with here, and one of the things was, like simple little things like this, putting this clamp in here to hold these wires from flopping around. Them particular wires go to the mass air sensor. Now I need to come up with a brace to attach this, possibly to here. Now I may end up shortening this tube up here, back a little farther, get this raised up. I can probably shorten this elbow a little bit. I just threw this stuff together when I bought it. I can shorten up here. But what I want to try and do is maybe get this mass air meter up a little higher, tucked in a little closer, because I do have to get a filter on the end of this. There's a screen in there, but that's not going to be enough. You need the filter to help straighten the airflow, especially with the prop spinning across here. It's going to cause some buffering on the sensor that may affect it, so that may need something else. I may have to put a blast shield on here to keep it from screwing with the readings on the MAF. But one thing I did do yesterday, believe it or not, it took me like all day yesterday to do this job here. You see, I finally got my oil fill set up on this. This is about the best configuration I could come up with. What I did is took the original base. It had kind of a little gooseneck coming off of it. I ended up cutting it off flush, threw it in the lathe, bored it out so it was true. Then I took a 3/4 pipe to ½ inch pipe reducer, brass, and I turned it down to fit the inside bore of this by about 5 to 10 thou, and then I pressed that in there. And then I got because I could not get a ½ inch pipe to 3/4 inch nipple, pipe thread, national pipe thread, tapered pipe to a 3/4 inch nipple. So I had to go this route. It's got a pretty good flow in there still. And then I bought this at the parts store. Just a 90-degree elbow they had hanging on the wall. And then up here, I did the same thing. I chopped off this assembly. This is the original Subaru piece. And I did basically the same thing with this one. Just cleaned it up in the lathe, bored it out smooth, and then I was able to take a piece of plastic Delrin I had, turn it down. There was a nice straight little section in here, the same as the threads, and then it reduced down to the opening I made, so it kind of has a step inside. So I made like a flange bearing piece of plastic, made her 5 to 10 thousandths oversized, and I was able to press that in there. And then I trued the bore up, and then I was able to take another fitting here, which is a 3/4 to ½ inch pipe, tapered pipe, and I turned the threads off of that just under, and then I pressed that whole assembly in there, and then I was able to screw in this ½ inch pipe to 3/4 inch nipple. And then, as you can see, I did a couple of Adel clamps here, one around this hose and one around the dipstick with a bolt. and that holds it in there. It's a little floppy, but it's not going to go anywhere. So now when I make my door, open it up, I have access to filling the oil in here and checking the oil at the same time. So, I mean, that took all day. Some of the part was due to having to run into Erie twice, which is, you know, you're talking an hour round trip just to go in and back at some of the stores. And then once I got that done, I had to make 2 trips for that. One trip to find this piece, and then after I got that done, I still wasn't sure on what I was doing here. And I found this and then worked on it, so that was an all-day project. So now my next one is I have to do the same thing to this. As you can see, this is just on there, pressed on there. There's just 2 O-rings in here that seal this, and it just presses on. So as this thing gets up the temperature and builds up pressure in here, this is a race cap, you know, it's like 22 psi. What can happen is the pressure may start slowly and the vibrations start pushing this out. And as you can see, I have very small clearance in there. I mean, there is maybe 1/8 of an inch. So it won't take much for that thing to wiggle out of there and eventually start rubbing. So my initial thought was, I got a stud mount here. I was going to make an L-shaped bracket for there. So it just bolts here and presses against this, wrap some rubber, a piece of rubber hose around this piece. But the engine is going to rock a little bit compared to this. This is fixed to the firewall, so the engine can vibrate a little bit like this, and over time it may end up chafing a hole in here. So I came up with the exact same idea as the other one. This clamp is too big. This is an Adel, it's a -24, which is 1.5 inches in diameter. What I need is 1.25 inches, which would be about a -20. But that's going to wrap around that hose like that. Let me see where we're at. This way. It's going to go this way. Alright? It's going to wrap around the hose right behind this clamp, right here. And then that little one is going to catch the motor mount right there. This white piece. And then you can see I got a little standoff in there to kind of give you an idea how it's going to go in. So it's going to go in something like this and hold it. And that'll keep that from coming out, wiggling around. So that should take care of that. So that's pretty much going to tie up in here once I get this done and that done. And then I just need to get, like before, I need some tape to tape around this thing, because as the airflow comes in here, it'll just shred this ceramic material. So I need to get some high temp foil tape. I'll spread some more of my glue, high temp contact cement in there before I put the tape in. So, and then that'll pretty much do it, I think, under here. And then I can get the cowling. I just need to come in and again touch up some of these paint spots after I did a bunch of trimming here. And then I can get the tank, same thing, up around the tank, get that all touched up with paint. But I think for the most part I can get this thing closed up and get the prop on there. Now with this warp drive prop, it is going to be extremely close to the cowl. Once I get the pitch set, it's probably going to be too close, so I may need to go to about a 1-inch spacer on there for now. My other hub, my electric hub, once I get that finished out later and on there, it won't need anything because it sticks out far to begin with. So and I need to purchase an air filter, make an adapter or something, get a filter on there. And then go back together and be done under there. So then, also, what I ended up doing was I finally got around to getting the snaps put in to hold the seat cushions in. You can see I did 4 across the top. There's one back in here. And these are the seat belts. I still need to get the anchor points to wrap around the seat belts. The seat belts have to come in and hook up to this little gizmo right here. It's kind of tough to see. Camera's going to shadow. You can see that turnbuckle down, or not turnbuckle, what do you call that? Can't think of it right now, but the belt's got to hook to that with a thing to thread the belt through. So I still need to find some of them. And then on the seat bottom, you can see I got a snap there on the bottom, snap there on the bottom, and I put 2 up there on the front of the spar, so this thing is not going. It can still flip up here. I may end up putting some Velcro on this. I didn't have any place to put snaps in here, so I may just put a strip of Velcro on there on the floor. And the same thing with the seat back on the bottom. But it's not going to slide now when I get in and out. And then I just need to get this panel fitted on here and closed up, make a little head pad for it, a little foam pad for your head, and then get the frame cleaned up, get some paint back on there, get that reattached, and then I can concentrate on this, getting the canopy bubble done. So that's kind of where I'm at this week. Don't seem like much, but you know, a lot of this stuff just takes time, you know, to think out the best way of doing it. And you know, it's not the tightest in there, but it's still pretty confined in a lot of spots. So I did hook up my gauge. I still need to find the Canon plug that goes to this. But right now these are on there, they're tight, they're not going to go anywhere. That's just the electric for the turn and bank gyro, which isn't crucial in VFR, but it'll work for now. I'll keep searching for that eventually, but that's pretty much everything on the inside. I do have a piece of aluminum to bend up the elevator trim tab, which goes back here in that little cutout, and then I've got to get some more fiberglass to finish making those little covers, one on each side, and I'm going to put another 1 or 2 layers into that tail cone, because when I'm moving this plane around I generally like to pick it up by the tail, and that tail cone is kind of flimsy right now because it's just basically 2 thin layers that was the airplane, and there's no more foam in it anymore, so I need to reinforce that with a couple layers of heavy, and then once it's all screwed down in there it should be nice and tight, because I like to use that to push on to roll the plane in and out. Taking it out's not a problem because you can just push against the stabilizer and hold the rudder, but pushing her back in I have to kind of hold back there with one hand, get up here on the top of the fin to push it in. So I haven't done anything else with the landing gear. It's, like I said, basically ready to retract and swing and get the cams in there adjusted and get the doors adjusted, and then it's just a matter of cutting out the little front piece to fill in. But I got to get the gear in there to measure the pattern. I got to cut out the plans pattern. I know it's going to be a little undersized, so I may have to fudge it quarter, half inch, and then I'll cut those 2 pieces out, one for each gear. And then these panels here again are just simple 3-4 inches wide strips, about 3 foot long, but you got to kind of bend the edge a little bit to give it a little cup shape, a little bowl shape. So 2 of those, adjust the doors, and the gear should be good to go. I may still try to see what I can do with this, because of the way this tire rotates around that way, so trying to hook it to here, it may try to kink or bind. There's really a tough decision on how to run that brake line, but the brakes are all in, everything works fine. So get some touch-up paint done and get that fuel tank back in, I can lock her down and call it a day. So that's kind of where I'm at. So here's the piece of aluminum for the elevator trim tab. There's the hinge that it's got a hook to. That's already drilled it goes on like this. It goes on the back of the elevator. And then this trim tab, when it's made, will sandwich. The top layer will go over here, and then it'll be triangle shaped. It's going to come out, come down, and it's going to angle up and come up, and then it'll be pinched together in here. So there'll be a piece of this on the top, and then when it folds back underneath, it'll go underneath, and that'll get riveted across there. If it seems like if this is only like 8 thousandths, it's either 6061 or 2024, but it is aircraft. Got it from a friend, and that's all he had. I'll give it a try. If it seems a little weak, I can always cut a piece of styrofoam, fit it in there before I close it up. I'll make tabs that'll bend over to kind of close the ends of it up so it isn't open. But so, alright, I guess that's gonna do her. I got my headset and radio in here, and I still have to make a little mount to mount the radio. It's a handheld transceiver. So, alright, it's gonna be short this week, to the point. I gotta order an 8L clamp for that. I'm gonna order the decals for marking all the switches for the switches over here. Everything has to be labeled. So all those switches have to be labeled, what they are, and then all the circuit breakers over here all have to be labeled. There may be a few things on there. The end number I'm going to put right up here underneath the compass. So, and then the experimental decal will probably go across here. And then there's a tag that has to be on the airplane with the amateur build, experimental amateur built, and it'll have my name and serial number of the plane and the likes and all that, and that's the required data tag for the aircraft. I'm not sure. I think some people put them in the aircraft, but on a production plane, they're usually mounted back on the tail section. So why? Because if the plane ever gets in an accident, usually the tail will survive. It'll get mangled, but it won't burn. But the whole airplane can literally burn up, so they need to see that ID tag in the event of an accident. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for this week's update. Like always, appreciate everyone taking time to watch these videos. Sorry I can't get more done, but this weekend was nasty. It was hot and humid, and we're talking, it was supposed to hit about 90 today, and it's like over 80% humidity. In here it's warm, it's probably like 82 and 76%. So it's a little cooler since I've gotten this all insulated in here. So right now I can hear it's raining. It finally started raining, but it was a hot and muggy weekend. So things are going slow. And there's my tank. So nothing wrong with the tank. A little touch up on the paint and ready to go back in. Okay, that's going to do it for this week, folks, for the third time, I guess. As always, feel free to leave any comments, questions, or concerns, and I'll answer them as they come through. Appreciate everybody watching these videos again, and take care, everyone, and I'll hopefully see you next week. So this is Dino Don out.